Welcome to the Baseball Together podcast, baseball family. For those of you new to the show, we are here to raise money for the nonprofit organization called UP, whose mission is to give disadvantaged young ball players the equipment they need to play the game we all love. We also want to unite communities by improving or rebuilding baseball facilities in areas suffering economic or environmental hardship. At this time, you can support by purchasing t-shirts and other baseball-related apparel and accessories from 9plusus.com. 10% of all sales go directly to the cause. Again, that's 9plusus.com. That's the number 9, PLUSUS.com. 9plusus.com. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Baseball Together podcast, brought to you by 9plusus. Welcome, baseball family, and thank you again for joining us on our regularly scheduled episode of the Baseball Together podcast. I am Brad, and as usual, I am joined by Brig.
Hi, baseball family.
And we are coming at you this week with some hot current events and a pretty hot topic that's kind of lingered for a couple decades, it seems like, in baseball. We're going to talk about steroids today. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah, we've been wanting to do this one for a while, and we're finally getting to it today. But before we do that, let's talk about some current events.
Sounds awesome.
So this week, Brig, we had one crazy game between the Yankees and the Twins.
Oh.
Went 10 innings, 5 hours. Final score is 14-12.
Yeah, I know.
And I didn't get to actually watch the game, but I watched like the recap because they put together the highlights on Facebook and everything, you know.
Yeah.
Which I think is the best thing. You feel like you're watching every single game.
Yeah.
But man, that game was insane. And the way that it ended with Aaron Hicks, I mean, let me lay this out for you real quick. The Twins had the bases loaded down to in the bottom of the 10th. And then Aaron Hicks goes out there in left center field and lays out as far as he can to get that ball. I mean, I feel like that took guts for him to even make that attempt.
Oh, yeah. Way over the shoulder.
Oh, yeah, if he misses it, that game is over. And the Yankees lose.
Yep.
That was
a walk-off.
Catch or go home.
Yep.
Catch or go home. I thought that was a big-time spot. That was gutsy.
It was.
Gutsy play.
Well, and you should see the replay is amazing. He lays out like totally flying through the air.
Mm-hmm.
He's completely parallel with the ground. And then he catches the ball, and the next thing that happens is his face goes slamming into the ground.
Yeah.
And he hangs onto the ball. I was like, magical, man.
Well, yeah, because he came up, and I saw his hat. I was like, dang, what happened to his hat? It's all jacked up.
Yeah.
Then I watched the replay. I was like, oh, that's what happened. His face hit the ground.
Yeah, pretty hard, yeah.
Yeah, it really did.
Oh,
it did.
Man.
Fantastic play. Great way to end an exciting game. I thought that was a great game. I wished I'd have watched it. I'd have sat and watched that game for 5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
No problem.
Me too.
That would have been a blast. And I look forward to more matchups like this. Brig, do you think this could be a potential playoff matchup that we're going to see?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I think that it will be a very similar scenario if we do see these two teams in the playoffs. I think that it'll be big time, high scoring, very exciting games. The only thing that will change that, scenario is if the Yankees can put together some starting pitching.
Yeah, yeah.
Which has been abysmal as of right now. And yesterday,
as we sit here,
I know. James Paxton has given up at least 7 right now against the Red Sox, hit Fenway, and then yesterday Tanaka gave up 12. 12,
yeah,
and
Tanaka got shelled.
just so bad. But it was partly to blame with that series in Minnesota because of all the fatigued arms. So, I don't know. That's not an excuse. It was so funny. One of my favorite things, and we'll talk about this in another episode, but one of my favorite things is when the radio announcers get involved. Like you can feel their emotional involvement kind of rising with the moment. Not you don't get that so much on television, but with the play-by-play guys, but on radio, and I listen to John Sterling and Susan Waldman all the time, and it's one of my favorite ways to consume baseball. Actually, is the radio.
Oh, I love baseball on radio.
Yeah, so I'm listening, and Susan, it's so funny because they pulled in I think Stephen Tarpley in the third or the fourth inning after Tanaka just got annihilated, and she's like, "Well, that run is credited to Tanaka as well," and it was so funny because she's sitting there saying, "Well, if Tanaka hadn't have put us in this position, then this wouldn't be here."
She's just so upset,
seething. You could tell she was so mad. She was like, "That's his fault too. If he hadn't have put us in this position," and it was just snotty and funny. And I thought, you know what, this is great. This is awesome. How it should be. So it's really, I just love that. And the cool thing with the Yankees, and I know I'm a Yankees fan, but it's a lot of my exposure with the Yankees. But with the Yankees, you get everybody's involved, right? Everybody, the guys on TV, the radio announcers, the concessions people, everybody's in it to win it, man. Everybody. Mm-hmm. So even Susan's like, "How could you do this to us?"
Yeah, that is one thing I love about radio, is that the radio guys, I feel like, are so much more biased towards their team than the TV guys.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while you get some TV guys who are really into it, but the radio guys are all about the home team, and even if they're not a fan of that team, they sure do a great job of putting on that facade of making you think that they are in it. They're in it with you.
Yeah,
like they're fighting with you for this team, and that's one thing I love about listening to games on radio. It's so fun in that way.
It's the way it should be.
Yep, exactly. But something about this game that I thought was super cool. I was watching this highlight, and I was sitting there. It gets late. It gets to like the 8th inning. And the Yankees are down still quite a bit. And I'm like, how does this thing go 10?
Yeah.
And this is the thing that's crazy about this, is they scored 5 runs in the 8th, gave up 2 more in the bottom of the 8th, scored 2 in the top of the 9th to take a lead, and then the Twins scored 1 in the bottom of the 9th. And then the Yankees went on and scored 2 more in the top of the 10th. Like, that's like the best 3 innings of baseball we've had all season, just about.
For sure.
That is some killer baseball right there.
Yeah. Game of the year. All the Yankees fans are saying it's the game of the year. ESPN is saying
I think baseball fans should be saying that's the game of the year.
Totally.
That is an insane game, and that's going to be one that I think they're going to be playing, I don't know, in the offseason.
Yeah. Well, and then to load the bases in the bottom of the 10th, right? Like, come on now.
Yeah. Chapman loaded up the bases.
That's crazy. He's the closer. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So a whole lot of fun. I'm hoping a postseason preview, because I'd love to see those two teams meet in the postseason.
Yeah.
I think that would be a blast.
Totally agree.
All right, so let's move on to we only have one other current event because we want to talk a lot about steroids today. But our other strange thing that happened this week. So I always talk about how baseball is kind of a game where weird things happen. You've got a round bat hitting a round ball, and just a ball could hit a pebble and it'll go every which direction, things like that. But it's not just on the field that strange things happen, it's with the lineup card. So you got this thing with the Red Sox and the Rays. So the headline that I have here in front of me, I have to read this because it is so complex that I can't just go off the top of my, off memory, because there's a lot of moving pieces here. So this headline says, Red Sox play game under protest after Rays poll lineup trickery. Whole lot of trickery going on in Tampa Bay.
That's a great headline, by the way.
It is a great headline. Anytime you can work trickery into a headline, I'm a fan of that.
I think Jim would be proud of that headline.
He would be proud of that. Strong words.
Yeah, strong words, bold language.
Strong words in the headline. Yep. So, for those of you who don't know about protest, it's kind of a strange thing with baseball, that you can protest a call or something that happened in a game. Like in this case, something with the lineup card, a substitution. And basically the protest kind of puts a bookmark in the game. They finish playing the game, And then if Major League Baseball says, okay, yeah, that was against the rules or that was inappropriate, something like that, you can go back and you can replay it and finish the game from that point,
Right.
from the bookmark.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a cool thing that baseball does. It's almost like it was like rained out or like put in a rain delay at that point. You can go finish it later, on a road trip or something.
Yeah. It doesn't happen very often though.
It doesn't. I can't think of any time off the top of my head that I've seen it actually happen. I've seen a lot of protests, but I can't think of it actually coming to fruition.
Right.
But anyway, so what happened here was this is in the top of the 8th. So the Rays had relief pitcher Adam Kolarek. I apologize for the name because I'm not sure if that's how he says it. He replaced starter Charlie Morton at the beginning of the inning. And then after getting Sam Travis of the Red Sox to pop out, the Rays moved Kolarek to first base, replacing G-Man Choi.
G-Man, I love G-Man.
Yeah, G-Man. Best name in baseball, by the way.
For sure.
And then Chaz Rowe took over pitching. He got Mookie Betts. Looks like he got Mookie Betts out. And then Kolarek came back to pitch after Betts, after Rowe pitched to Betts. So Kolarek came back over from first base to pitch again, and Nate Lowe moved to first base. So
that's some black magic. It's black magic.
I know it's that easy, right?
Yep.
So
you brought this up earlier. That's some Joe Madden crap right there.
Yes. So this is why I think this isn't super complicated. If you just think about it this way, Kolarek was brought in to pitch. He faced a batter, and then the Rays manager decided, I like the matchup of this other pitcher, but I want to keep Kolarek in later because I like the matchups going forward.
Right.
So he moved Kolarek to first base. Brought in a pitcher. That pitcher came out, moved him back over. It's kind of a little league move if you think about it, because I think that's something that you see a lot in little league. Is not so much anymore that I know of, but I know I used to have a coach who would like the pitchers would stay in the game a lot.
Oh yeah, just shuffle
and
around.
Then later he'd be like, I might need you to pitch a little bit, so he'd bring him back in.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that happened a lot when we were growing up, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it was an arms thing back then. They weren't so concerned about arms as they are now. But so it's just a position shift, and it sounds like Alex Cora got really confused by it. And I love in the article here, it says, the series of moves was questioned by Alex Cora, who appeared flummoxed by the changes. He was flummoxed.
Who wrote this article?
So this is Brian McWilliam of the Sport or the Score app.
Okay. I just need to point out that this dude's editor is the bomb.
They do have great editors with the Score, by the way. If anybody is looking for a good scoring app, like a good place to get scores, that's where I get mine is the Score. It's fantastic. They pull a lot of articles from other places, but their stuff that they write, awesome.
I've never heard of them. This is really cool. So for those of you that don't know, Brad and I both have journalism degrees, right? Like that's how we met, is in a journalism school. So if you got an editor that's letting you throw in words like trickery in the headline and flummoxed in the body of the article, like that's a cool climate. Like that culture is amazing.
Yeah, especially since I've had words that I liked and phrasing taken out that I like taken out of articles.
For sure.
So if you've got somebody who lets you keep that stuff in there, that's top notch.
That's
stuff.
super cool. Big fan now.
Anyway. Yeah. So anyway, I just think it's so funny because there's a lot of talk with like all the sabermetric stuff going on right now that the manager has been like the job of the manager has been minimalized. Yeah. Like last year we saw in the playoffs, Dave Roberts with the Dodgers, that basically he didn't have any say in the lineup card because there was at one point the Cody Bellinger wasn't even in the lineup because there was a left-handed pitcher on the mound. It's all right-handed batters. That's not a guy you take out of the lineup. No.
Yeah, that's weird.
And then there was a point where there was a change made that was based on sabermetrics, and Roberts had no say in it, that they were completely handcuffed by sabermetrics, and that's kind of what's happening to the game. And we'll talk, I think this is another episode, we can talk more about this kind of stuff. But I don't feel like the manager is completely, like taken out of the game, because this is something Cora should be able to pay attention to and see exactly what's going on.
Oh, for
He should
sure.
understand what's happening here and be able to see that once that pitcher is taken off the mound to another position, what happened there was that the DH was ineffective. The DH, they lost the DH.
Yeah.
They had to bring in a pinch hitter for that pitcher the next inning.
Substitution. Yeah.
So that's I feel like that's another aspect of the game that people don't understand with the manager, is that he has to actually be thinking about those things more, maybe because there's more of that going on.
Yep.
With sabermetrics and advanced stats and things like that. So it's kind of an interesting shift, is that it is more of a thinking man's game in that aspect. I thought that was interesting when I saw that. But like we said, we've seen Joe Madden do this a ton. I saw him do it probably 2 or 3 times last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We pulled the pitcher, put him in left field.
Yeah.
And then brought him back in 2-3 batters later.
That dude's a wizard, man. He knows the rules inside and out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to see some of the stuff that he does because of his understanding of the rules and things like that. So
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Some fun stuff. And when you see stuff like this, I think it's pretty cool to see the creative things that managers do to gain an edge. And obviously it's perfectly legal. It's just strange.
Yeah, strange is okay.
Just strange stuff. Yep, just manipulating the lineup card, and it's fun stuff.
Sweet, man.
Well, let's go ahead and take a short break, and when we come back, we will get into talking about steroids.
Oh, man, I'm so excited.
The designated hitter. The infield fly. A ground rule double. The dropped third strike. To some, these seem like strange things. To you, these are just baseball things. Shop the Baseball Things collection at 9plusus.com.
Welcome back, baseball family. We hope you enjoyed your very short break, and we did, although it was longer for us than it was for you. We are now going to get into one of the most hotly disputed topics in all of baseball history. We are going to talk about performance-enhancing drugs. Bum, bum.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to say about steroids and other performance enhancers. And so first, I think we should avoid the core question at first, which is, what is cheating? Like, let's table that for now, because I think that's at the heart of this. But first, let's talk about, is it okay or is it not okay to use performance enhancers? And what is the difference between a performance enhancer and a steroid? Brad, you're up first.
Oh man, that's a tricky one. So let me do the first one first. So, is it okay to use performance enhancers?
That's the first question.
Okay. So, I'm gonna say no. Well, not entirely. It depends on what the performance enhancer is. Okay. Because I feel like there's performance enhancing drugs, and then there are performance enhancing products, right?
Aha.
So
splitting hairs right away, Brad. I like this.
I'm gonna split hairs this whole time. So I don't think performance enhancing drugs are okay because they change your being, right? They change your body in an unnecessary way. And it's not necessarily something that's going to be available to everybody. It's not going to do the same thing to and for everybody, right?
Okay.
However, performance-enhancing products, I feel like, are okay. Not only to enhance performance, but also, in some cases, for the safety of the game. Okay? So, I'm going to go real basic, and then I'm going to go a little bit deeper. First, I'm going to say batting gloves. Okay. Batting gloves, I consider performance-enhancing product because I used to hear stories about guys back in the old days of baseball, before batting gloves were a thing. They'd say that they'd come into spring training and they'd get blisters all over their hands when they were first taking batting practice because they hadn't built up their calluses yet.
You're right.
And I feel like I have a scar on my right hand because I lost my batting gloves at one point, so I was just like, I'll just go without. And so the bat kind of shifted in my hand at one point, and I got this nasty blister um, on my hand, and the callus never really went. So I guess it's more of a callus than a scar, but the callus has never gone away, and I don't do anything that would get calluses on my hands, right? Like I lift weights, but I don't lift enough to get calluses. So
Okay,
that's
that's a lot.
So if guys are getting like splinters, or not, maybe not splinters, but blisters and calluses on their hands from not wearing batting gloves, it's going to affect the way that they hold the bat, right?
Sure.
And also, pine tar, I don't feel like does the same thing on your bare hands as it does with batting gloves. I feel like if you're using pine tar and batting gloves, you have a better grip on your bat.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that is from personal experience, because I've done it both ways, and if you got a better grip on your bat, you're going to be able to swing more confidently.
Absolutely.
So I feel like batting gloves are a performance enhancer in that respect. But on the vein of pine tar, I feel like pitchers should be allowed to use a little bit of pine tar. Like we've seen pitchers who have it like on their belt, their hat, their arm, whatever.
Yeah.
On cold, maybe rainy days, have a little bit of pine tar to get that little bit extra grip. Because if I'm a batter, I want that pitcher to have as much control as he can.
Yeah.
I don't care if it means more snap on a curveball, as long as he's not losing control of that fastball and it's coming at my head.
Huh.
Because that's not a pleasant experience, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, no.
So I feel like performance enhancing products to a degree are fine, but performance enhancing drugs are not okay, because it can give someone an unfair edge by the way that it affects their body. It may not affect somebody else's body the same way. Like some guys I've heard, when they're on steroids, their vision is just through the roof. They can see the ball better. It's like hitting a beach ball instead of hitting a baseball, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if it does that for everybody. So I feel like that's kind of the shaky edge, because no medication or drug is going to affect two people exactly the same.
Right, and that's your main argument. You with the pharmacy background, you're saying that your biggest issue is that there's no equilibrium. There's no equalization in the pharmaceutical enhancement of a player's
Mm-hmm.
performance. And that's so are you then saying that if there was a level of equality through performance enhancing pharmaceuticals that you would be okay with it?
Oh yeah, it's called protein shakes. I mean, guys drink protein shakes before, like after their workouts, right? And it helps recover. And I feel like that's something that's consistent across everybody.
Sure.
It's going to help. That's going to help you bulk up faster, help you recover from your workout, be able to get to the game and play better, because you're not completely sore from your workout that day or the day before. You're going to be able to work out. Going to be able to get a better workout the next day because you're recovering from your protein shake. So I feel like that is a great example of, here's something simple, a semi-pharmaceutical, I guess you could say.
Sure, yeah.
Because it's an over-the-counter supplement.
Yeah.
That
affects you physiologically.
Yeah, and it's mild enough that it has the same effect on everybody, but I get to use the analogy we're using. Steroids, I guess, would be protein shakes on steroids. That the effect is so massive that it's going to go to so many different places in your body. It's flooding your. I'm going to get scientific on you, like a little bit biological on you. It's flooding your system with that chemical, and everything is just reacting like, I don't know what to do, but just get bigger, right?
Right.
So that's how that works. And
well, yeah, for sure.
Some guys' bodies are just going to be like, I can't handle it, and something may go wrong,
and they die. Right? They pass out from dehydration during spring training and die.
Or they start lactating. I don't know.
Yeah, or that.
Yeah.
So Tiffany's here. I forgot to announce her presence.
Sorry, I've been sitting here. You guys didn't know that.
She's been sitting quietly this whole time.
She's so awesome. But we brought her in because she has some really interesting opinions on this, and I want to know what you think, babe.
So my take on steroids is a little bit different, and I don't know why I think this way, but this is how I think. when I think about the topic of steroids in any professional sport, let's say the Olympics, or let's say the NFL, let's say MLB, which is what we're talking about. The concern that I have is that when a person gets to be a professional athlete, they are no longer a they're no this is going to sound terrible, but I'm very serious when I say this. They're no longer a their own being. They're now a part of a machine that is a product for the masses. And that's what happens when you get signed into these spaces of professional athleticism. So you're a public figure, excuse me. You also are part of the professional athleticism as a whole. So you're compared to other athletes. You're compared to other athletes in different sports. You're paid quite a lot of money, and your business is entertainment now. And so here's my concern: is that when athletes get to be professionals and they are using performance enhancement drugs, they are making themselves superhuman, and they are also, as someone that has some clout in the media and in the eyes of the public in general, they make it normal, or they make it exciting, or they make it something that needs to be used if you're going to be a professional athlete. And this has a trickle-down effect. And so this is a problem, when our kids or ourselves, if anybody that is looking to become a professional athlete themselves, they may take the message as, if those who are professional right now are using performance enhancing drugs, then I need to do it early as well. I need to do it as soon as possible. Clearly, this is what is done. But it has some terrible effects for people who use it over time. And especially, I don't know that there's a lot of research done over a large amount of time, because the actual study of it is unethical. Universities can't give athletes drugs and follow them over years and years of time. But what they have seen is the after effects of athletes who have used them in the past and what has happened to them later in life. And a lot of it has to do with it messes up your hormones over the space of your life. Meaning your hormones don't become as effective, or you have a diminished effect over time. And that's very serious. It's like, it's an ethical problem. It's not just a question of whether this is good for the sport or good for the athlete, but is it good for society? Is it good for the person's lifespan? Because a person might be a professional baseball player for 10 years if they're lucky, maybe more, maybe less, but sure. Let's say average.
We've seen much longer with the steroid players.
Exactly right.
That's what extended their careers.
So let me just get this straight. You're saying that because they're public figures, they are ethically or morally or socially, whatever, responsible to uphold a certain standard. Let's call it whatever it is, right? A certain standard, because of the impact that it will have on younger players, younger generation, those who idolize them, and because of the corporeal effects that it has on them and the detriment that can have over time. You're saying that these younger players are taking this as acceptable practice, and it's happening sooner and sooner, which is lengthening and extending those negative impacts and causing those negative impacts to occur sooner.
I believe so. Okay. And it's not just like, so if you think of, for example, the phenomenon of coffee, I don't know if you've ever taken a quick look, but coffee is now not that it wasn't before, but it's normal for children to drink coffee because it is normalized and made to be something that is always done, that is always cool in normal society. So not that caffeine is necessarily a performance enhancing drug, but you can see just in something so simple as coffee was normally a product consumed by adults, but now is a product consumed by people of every single age and every single day. And let's say that steroids were to become normalized in professional sports, and then it would become something that is talked about, something that is accepted, and something that is cool. And the trickle down effect could be just as serious.
Well, an example of that is smokeless tobacco or chew in baseball. And I know they've done a lot of stuff to try to kind of phase it out of the game as far as visibility and things like that. But when I was playing in high school, there were a lot of guys I played with who chewed. Most of the guys I played with, our goal was to at least to get to college, if not the top, right?
Right.
And there were a couple guys who were like, hey, come have a chew. I'm like, I'm good, It
Right.
doesn't appeal to me at all. Like, hey man, you'll never make it if you don't do it. Everybody does it, and I'm just like, no.
Right.
I don't believe you, and B, I don't think that's the case. I don't need to, but it was so normalized in baseball at the time. Like, I totally agree with you on this, Tiff, that was something that was so normalized at the time that they felt like that was just something you had to do. If you're playing baseball, you've got to dip,
Yeah.
Right. So what if it became, you're in baseball, you have to take steroids,
And I think that might, and I don't want to like accuse anybody, but I know there were rumors of a couple guys I played with who did, and I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure if they did, but I'm just gonna put that right there. But there was some evidence that maybe that was possibly true, and it was because they wanted to get to the top level.
Right.
Right.
And they
because
believed
they felt like they felt like that's what they needed to do to get there. They felt like that's what it took.
Right.
Okay, so this is a great segue into the next question, which is, we're talking about these people's livelihood. And it's as simple as that, right? These guys get paid to play this game the best way they can with the highest possible performance levels against other guys who are playing at the same levels of intensity. And so if you can, it's not outside the realm. It's not hard to understand. It's not a difficult jump to say, hey, I am doing literally everything in my power to improve my game. And I'm willing to do everything I can to make my performance better, to help myself, help my team, pay for school, pay for my family's, generations of wealth or whatever their goal is, like we've talked about in the past, right? And they're doing it's so clear, right? So we've, you brought up pine tar, you brought up batting gloves, and now they've got that wedge of foam that they stick over their thumb, and that's just one more thing.
Yeah.
And they're doing every little tiny thing they can. So I don't think it's difficult to understand the position that these players are coming from. And then you take it.
I fully understand the position of using steroids. I totally understand why somebody would.
Absolutely. And it's
100%.
just, it's simple. So then you got to figure the entire industrial complex, right, around baseball or athletics in general is built around getting better, being better, moving further, all this stuff. And so you figure the trainers are involved on some level. They got to be. Whether or not they're employed by the clubs, I don't know. But almost every one of these athletes has off-season coaches, right?
Yes.
They all have off-season mentors and coaches, and it's almost like their own personal team that they hire to keep them at peak performance and making sure that they recover properly. And there's a regimen in place for all of their improvement in the off season. And so there's an entire economic thrust going on behind improvement. And so if you say, hey, take this pill and you can get better, take this shot and you can get better, how can they not?
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally, like I said, I totally understand that. And there are a lot of guys who kind of hide behind that as far as oh, my trainer gave me something, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, that's the old line. That's the party line.
Yeah, and I feel like in that aspect, guys do have to be smart, and they can't just trust their trainers, because there's money in it for their trainers too.
Of course.
You know, if your trainer's the guy who helped you get to that next level, who got you from everyday third baseman to all-star third baseman and a $250-300 million 10-year contract, he's gonna get a raise.
Yep.
Right? So there's incentive for the trainer to sneak a little something into your supplements too. So I feel like there's responsibility across the board for everybody. You can't just say, the trainer can't just say, here, take this, and the guys, you know, okay, blindly take whatever. There has to be not just a relationship of trust, but maybe a little bit of skepticism. I don't want to say skepticism on the players, but
caution maybe.
There can't, caution. There can't be any naivety to what the potential of anything, any possible potential foul play anywhere.
Okay, now
anybody they know, because of the financial reward of it all.
Of course, and that's part of what I'm saying. But you've just used the term foul play, which indicates how you feel about the consumption and use of performance enhancers.
Yes.
So how do you?
That is how.
So you think it's wrong?
So, I do think it's wrong, and there's a lot of reasons, and I feel like Tiff brought up some great points, that something I hadn't directly thought of, but it's crossed my mind of, this can't be something that's regular.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can't just you can't have that trickle down effect.
Totally. And another thought that I had is, what is there to be amazed at in a athlete if their greatest achievements were done under performance enhancing drugs? What is there to be appreciative of? Like, oh, he had an amazing, like, record breaking year, but it wasn't him. It was his enhanced abilities. It wasn't his true abilities. So what is there to be amazed at if this is cluttering the athletic space?
Well, yeah, I mean, you take the Barry Bonds home run record, for instance, and not many people are really in awe of it. Like, if you bring it up, it's typically like, yeah, well, but, you know, it's kind of how that's
yeah,
approached.
it is, especially at my house.
That's how I approach it.
I'm totally honest. Like, I don't even bring up Barry Bonds. His name doesn't even go on the list in my house. Sorry.
Yeah. No, and we can get to that in a little bit. But no, there isn't really much awe with somebody who's done all that. Like, at the time with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, it was like, oh my gosh, these guys are hitting all these home runs. This is unbelievable. And then you find out that it was steroid fueled. You know, for sure with Mark McGwire, and I think there's just kind of an assumption with Sammy Sosa.
And then he corked his bat.
And then there's the corked bat thing,
oh,
right?
Oh gosh, how tragic.
Talk about performance enhancing products.
Yeah. You know, that turns out Sosa could have been a complete fraud.
Yeah, from start to finish. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, oh, well, we may never see that again. So it kind of puts Roger Maris even on a higher level, because, you know, and then was he using greenies at the time? Who knows? You know, like, I don't know. It's all like so foggy before there was any testing, and it was, I don't know. It's so weird, just to, like, what we should be amazed by and what we shouldn't be because of the performance enhancing drugs, but especially baseball in the 90s, everything that we saw. I mean, we know with, I want to say 99.9% of certainty, that Ken Griffey Jr. was clean. His dad said there's no way he would have done steroids because he hates to lift weights.
Yeah, right. Yeah, until now.
Yeah, until now.
And now he's a tank.
Just now he has nothing else to do, so
right.
He's probably lifting weights.
Well, and we can say the same about Derek Jeter, and there's a bunch of other guys that I think fit that category that are clean, but they are, I think, the distinct minority in that mid 90s to early 2000s steroid era. So I totally agree with you that Roger Maris, his 61 home run record in 1961 is just ridiculously amazing. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't there in 1961. I didn't watch it.
Right.
I was there in 98. Okay.
Yes.
And me and everybody else, right? All of America. We all, even people that didn't like baseball, were tuned in and paying attention. We didn't. My family. We weren't Cubs and Cardinals fans.
No.
We weren't.
Yeah.
But we watched Mark McGwire play baseball every day if we could. Yeah. Every single day. Yep. So the other argument we run into is whether or not this performance enhancing thing is good for baseball. Does it enhance the product? Does it bring in more excitement or whatever? You hear these arguments all the time. So Tiff, what do you think?
Is it good for baseball?
Does it enhance the product?
I would say that it doesn't, and here's why. I'm going to make a comparison with the Olympics. When we watch the Olympics, we expect to see the height, the peak of human ability. And our expectation is understanding that these people are real people. These people have worked hard. Like we appreciate what they're going through and what they have gone through to get there, and we appreciate it more because it is them. And in a sense of, when we watch others perform, we put ourselves in their shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like we share the story with them, and this is why we endear ourselves to characters. And when we hear about, let's say, a team, this happened recently, that used performance-enhancing drugs to qualify for the Olympics, and it's an extreme letdown as a fan to know that other people, it makes you feel like, hey, if I took performance-enhancing drugs, I could be a part of this elite group. That, it makes you feel like, oh, there is nothing special about them. So if we transfer that understanding to baseball, and I think maybe we don't think of this very often, but we want our baseball players to be good, normal people that we could sit around the table and have dinner with, but also admire as they play. And when we find out that they have done something so recently, when we think about things like Addison Russell and his domestic abuse problems, it takes them from the pedestal of these are our people, these are our heroes, these are the people that we include in our daily conversations in our family. It brings them down, and with it brings us down. So it's not good for baseball, because as a fan, and without fans, you guys, there is no baseball. There might be community baseball, but there is no such thing as a professional sport without a fan. And so it is not good to have elite athletes taking performance-enhancing drugs, because when we understand that as fans, we have no respect. And without a fan, there is no professional baseball.
And we're going to stop right there on that mic drop by Tiff for this week. Don't forget to visit shop.9plusus.com, where you'll find awesome baseball shirts, hats, wall art, other things, and 10% of all sales go to help a young person in need play the game that we all love. And also subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so we can continue to bring this to you every week. And we'll catch you next week, baseball family. We'll pick up right where we left off.